In this video, I'm going to cover the top 10 highest paying sales jobs and careers and how you can earn more than surgeons, lawyers, doctors, etc., and how you can find an opportunity very quickly, even in today's market. Now, before we dive into it, it's important to understand how a lot of these comp structures are designed, and each one has its pros and cons in terms of how each part is weighted, if there's more or less of each part. So, for example, there's probably 4 core areas most comp structures are designed, and they may have 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of them. So, for example here, there's going to be a base component, a commissions component all based off closed deals, a bonus component based off maybe instant revenue goals, etc., and also equity potentially as well, which can come in form as restricted stock units, stock options, etc., etc., etc. Now, each of these can be structured in many, many different ways, and each component does get taxed differently. So there are pros and cons depending on which structure that you may have, and this also may impact you differently depending if you're hired as a contractor versus an employee. So you definitely want to talk to a tax professional to understand what's bringing best for you. Now, for example here, when I first got started in B2B sales, it started with a very small base and heavy on commissions and bonuses. And over time, as I produced more, and it got to the point where I was leading teams, etc., it started shifting to a higher base, no commissions, and then having a quarterly bonus structure. But then eventually I got to a point where it's even higher base, no commissions, smaller bonus, but heavy on equity. And that was really, really cool as well, because at the time, I really want to build a lot of wealth and get a lot of equity because of that, because, you get taxed very, very differently. And it got to a point where, even though my comp was close to 7 figures with the comp structure at the time, it was heavy on the equity piece, which is really, really cool. Now, on the flip side, as a really, really simple example, I actually had a good neighbor, Dave, where he was 100% commission as a contractor. So, and he was earning about $700K plus, a good income, but he had many tax benefits I didn't get to have as a W-2 employee in the US, and that's why having that equity is really, really important for me to be able to earn at an enormous level without getting taxed the same way that most people would get taxed. So it's important to understand that. You want to know that as well. That's very, very important. Now, what's really, really cool as we kind of go through this, I'm going to show you what I'm going to go over next is the top 10 roles I've seen so far, right? And for example here, we're going to focus on tech sales to begin with, because it's a really popular industry to go into, very lucrative. So for example here, and all these are sourced by RepView up top and then Bravado here, but in the strategic account executive role, when I pull this up, you can see here, the base salary can be down to $36,000 up to $193,000 plus, and on target earnings base plus commission could be as low as $58,000 up to $367,000 plus, with high performers earning over $400,000. Pretty good income. But here's a really cool part. As I scroll down a little bit, you can kind of see here, and these top 10 ranked orgs, for example, at Carolina Handling, they might have a $42,500 base salary, but the top rep earns $1.1 million a year. Pretty cool. Over a Workday, they have a bigger base, $187K base, but over $1 million also in earnings. That's actually a little bit less than top reps, but obviously they have a bigger base here. At Google Cloud, pretty solid base, $157,000 base, $775,000, so $750,000 in total earnings for top earners. Data Robot, $155K base, $900,000 plus in earnings. You look at Samsara, $1.3 million a year in earnings, pretty outstanding, right? Zscaler, $994,000, right, just shy of $1 million, pretty cool. Dynatrace, $913,000. New Relic, $450,000 earnings, and of course, App Incorporation at $884,000, and LinkedIn owned by Microsoft at $577,000. And you can see these are great income. These are about $500,000 and plus for some of the top ranked companies. So very, very lucrative opportunities. Now, if I go into the next one, which is Enterprise Account Executives, again sourced by RepView, you take a look here. Some slight variances in terms of comp structure, but overall, there's some pretty similar, a lot similar as you can see here. So base salary about $50K up to $167K plus. The OTE on target earnings $90K up to $337,000 plus. High earners earning about just over $500,000. So pretty cool. And when you take a look here, you'll see a couple of similar organizations, but also some different ones here. So for example, at NextGen, top reps earning just over $1 million, $127K base salary. At a Workboard, just under $500,000, just under half a million. Aptio, $837,000 for the year. Boomi, $1.2 million. Tanium at over $800,000. Variant Systems, $661,000 for the year. HashiCorp, Corp, just over $1 million. AP Incorporation, $833,000. Confluent, close to $1 million at $950,000, and Beamery at $887,000. So you can see these enterprise opportunities, these strategic account opportunities, they're very, very lucrative. If you are a top performer, you can make a lot of money doing these roles, right? And as another source, you can take a look as well. This is a mixture of both types of roles: the strategic account executive, in which, and the enterprise account executive, in which you are primarily working with major opportunities, selling really, really big opportunities and big deals. So, for example, at Bravado here, you can kind of see this is like this kind of comes with all the above, right? So this gives a really nice, unique breakdown here, because even at Google Cloud here, you can see the total compensation is $448,000 when they package together, base salary $141K, but they also have, when you attain 100% of your quota, $211,000 plus in commissions. But on top of that, you do get a signing of stock bonuses, $95,000. And the cool part is that when you get opportunity, like when you get things like equity and stock, depending on how stock performs, you actually might end up getting a lot more. So for example, if I look at even my comp structure when I was back in corporate America, what I earned, if I took the same stock price it is right now, it was well into like very, very high seven figures because of that, right? So that's what's cool about stock, because the value, if it's a good company, can always increase in time because you actually have ownership in the company, which is absolutely outstanding. And that's why I've held on to so much stock in my prior company, because I worked and I knew what a great company it was to work for. And I believe in leadership as well. So pretty cool. Over at Amazon Web Services, you can see here, principal account manager. Total comp is just over 400,000 plus. Base salary 180K plus. Commissions 120K, right? So pretty good. That's like a 60-40 split. Signing and stock bonus 139K. So you can see some of these signing bonuses just by itself are very, very lucrative just to get into them as well. Now keep in mind, when you have these type of signing bonuses, and also when you have equity as well, typically you are probably signing some sort of agreement saying you must be there for a certain amount of time, or else you won't get it, right, for the bonus. Or you have to, if you do quit or something else, or they fire you, you do have to repay it back. So that is often hidden in those agreements. And of course, if it's equity, there usually is a vesting period of 2, 3, 4 years plus, depending on the company. Over at Snowflake, good organization as well. Total comp $425,000, base salary $162,000. You can see great sign bonus of $100K plus. Slack, close to $500,000 here. You can see the total comp, right? So you can see like these comp structures are very, very good, very lucrative, and they're all. These all kind of. But what you see here is all kind of ranging around the same, right? So, but there's usually a mix between the total of the base salary, commissions, and bonuses as well. Pretty neat. So I'm gonna keep moving here because you can kind of see some of these ones as well. And if you want a copy of this document, I'll link it below so you can take a look at that, right? So those are pretty cool, and those are really good opportunities, right? Where we're seeing just a range between 150 to 400K plus is probably the average range, and then very, very top reps are earning up into close to $1 million, if not over $1 million. Now, here's the thing. There are other industries as well, so a lot of people love tech, and tech is definitely a fantastic industry, but I want to show a few other examples as well. So for example, if you go into, say, medical device, so in the medical device industry, right, the average rep is still around 150 to 200K plus. You can kind of see, if you kind of look through here, it's like 150K plus for the 150K to 149K, right? 200K plus. So they have a very similar type of structure where there's base, commissions, bonus, and equity as well, right? So that's also a very lucrative industry too. Obviously, you're just calling on different types of industries, right? You're typically calling on potentially doctors, surgeons, etc. Then of course there's, like, say, real estate. Real estate, some people don't really think of that as sales, right? Especially if you're in the B2B sales world, but real estate is also a sales role as well. So you can go to real estate, you can take a look, and some of these estimated average earnings is 140, 150K, 200K plus. But the reality is because even with agents, because they're based on such 100% commission, right? They get paid typically about 3% per deal, or 6%, up to 6% if they get both sides of the coin. You can make $500,000, million plus, $2 million plus, etc. And when you look at some of the top real estate agents, some literally make millions and millions of dollars because they're essentially running almost like their own business. So it can also be very lucrative too. All right. So to continue to expand your mind, there's also like high ticket sales. So if you're not familiar with high ticket sales, typically high ticket sales is if you're thinking like Dan Law kind of sleaze like that, that's like kind of old school way of thinking about it. But in high ticket sales, those are typically salespeople who are working for, say, like a coach like myself or a consultant, etc. And they're selling some sort of great coaching program or offer. And those packages can be anywhere from 5K up to 100K plus, right, for masterminds, etc. And you can make some pretty good money as well, right? So for example, like if you're a decent high ticket closer, you're probably earning about 10, 15, 20, 30K a month, right? So, and because of how it's structured and set up, because you usually hire as a 1099 contractor in the US, you get to write off a lot more things. So again, that could be pretty lucrative, because if you're earning $30K a year, that's earning over $360,000 a year, working remote on your laptop, maybe doing 10, 15, 20 calls a week. It's a pretty good living still, right? So pretty neat, right? Or, you know, take a look, next one's telecommunications. So if you're in telecommunications, right, it can be very, very lucrative as well, right? So, you know, it could be from 100, 200K plus in commissions, but, you know, again, the range is about 150 to 200,000 plus, depending what type of role you're in. You can take a look at some of these later, but just like some of the other roles, top earners can make a lot of money as well. They can earn $500,000 plus as well if they're in the right opportunity vehicle. Or consulting in different agencies, right? You know, like, you know, there are some consultants that can literally earn millions of dollars a year, right? But they can range from, you know, 50K to 100K plus for base salary. You can see right here it says 225K. That might be a little bit high, right? But you can see there's just a lot of opportunity even in these other industries that some people may not know quite about, know about at all, right? But again, if it's a good organization and they're thriving, it could be also a very lucrative industry. Or some people become consultants on their own, and as a consultant on your own, you can easily earn, I won't say easily, you can work hard just like any other industry, and you can earn millions of dollars in earnings as well. All right, so let's go to another one, for example, like pharmaceuticals, right? So if you're in pharma, take a look at pharma here, right? You see the average reps out about 150K plus. So you kind of see this, it kind of falls in like kind of the average earnings of even some of these, you know, it kind of falls right in between there, right? As you can see, you know, because not everyone, even the on-target earnings, you'd be shocked on how many of them are not even hitting their OTE, right? So that happens all the time, okay? Or I even pull up someone's like oil and gas. We look at like oil and gas. You know, like you can see some like the ranges, like, you know, average salary 115K plus, right? You know, plus you add the bonuses, so now they're earning, you know, 195, 200,000 plus, you know, depending on what companies they work for, opportunity, how good they really are. I even looked up like capital equipment, right? Capital equipment. So you're selling like potentially, you know, like machines that cost millions of dollars, etc., right? And you can see here, average capital sales, you know, rep, average capital equipment sales rep is about 125K plus, right? Plus you add some bonuses, etc. So you can see some of them can earn 40K, 250K plus, and again, they're just on a big physical product as well that is worth millions of dollars, you know. Or merchant services, which is the last one, right? And merchant services, because, you know, if you do well, if you do a really good job with that, you can earn only 30, 40K a month, if not more, right? But also on the low end, you might not make any money at all, right? So I share all these opportunities with you because the bottom line is really this: sales ultimately can be one of the highest paying jobs in the world, right? Or it can be one of the lowest paying jobs in the world, just depending on your skills, your habits, your execution. And you can see now, really, there's so many different opportunity vehicles that you go into, that you can potentially go into in sales. And as long as you choose a decent one and you're really good at these things, I mean, you can make literally, like, you know, multiple six figures a year to even up to millions of dollars, depending on opportunity vehicle. Or if you're not good at the job, you won't make very much money. I mean, the truth is, regardless of whichever industry, this is where I see some people make a mistake of maybe going after a certain industry because they hear there's better earnings in a certain industry. And sometimes, yes, there is. Maybe it's a higher, you know, average. But if you have average results, you're going to have average income. You know, if you have elite results, you have elite income, right? So whichever industry you're in, if you're the absolute best of the best, you'll be able to cap it out. And then, of course, if you're in the right opportunity vehicle, you can take it to the absolute next level, of course. All right. So that's why I've always been a firm believer that ultimately, when you can master sales, it is one of the greatest things to do for yourself, because it's a high leverage skill that allows you to transfer from industry to industry, right? Because at the end of the day, if you are really good at selling, it really doesn't matter about the product. You don't need the features of product. You are a master of solving problems and being able to communicate that to the right prospects consistently every single week, every single month, every single year, etc. Now, a couple of things I do want to point out, you can consider as well, because a lot of times when people, you know, come on to sites like, you know, Rep Future is absolutely awesome, and they're seeing, wow, looks like everyone's making millions of dollars. It seems that way, but that's not the case, right? Typically, the top reps are earning $1 million plus is usually going to be, you know, on the low end, the top 5%, usually the top 1% of the reps at these companies that are able to do it, you know. And I definitely have worked and talked with reps that have maybe made $1 million 1 year, but in the second year, they're just not consistent, so they fall down to, say, $500,000. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with $500,000, but my point is like, in order to maintain that level, it requires a certain level of discipline, execution, and skills to be consistent with it, right? Because sometimes you will hear about some of these enterprise opportunities where a rep just happens to get a big deal. It kind of happens to fall in their lap because of the situation, right? So for example, like I think back to when COVID first came out. Can you imagine what like the PRL reps made? Now I don't know anybody at PRL, so I don't know how the comp structure is set up, but I can imagine those Sennheiser reps probably absolutely crushed it as a result, right? Unless of course the company made some changes, right? But again, sometimes these one-off marketplace situations happen, or they get lucky, and it really blows a comp completely out of the water, which is pretty cool, right? But the things that I do want to point out, because I think the mistake some people make is they chase the money, which is a dangerous thing, right? If you really actually break it down, like getting a big comp opportunity is actually relatively easy when you compare it to actually keeping it, right? Keeping it is actually the hard part. And I've seen it happen where, a salesperson is able to sell themselves into a role, and it's great, and it's definitely a huge opportunity. They might even tend to double, triple, quadruple their income based off on-target earnings. But because they got those opportunities, their skill level, their habits, their mindset, their beliefs, the way they're selling wasn't quite there. They did a great job in interviewing, but once they're actually in the opportunity, they actually lose the opportunity, end up getting fired or pushed out 6 to 12 or 18 months later because they simply didn't have what it takes to actually stay in the role. So just understand that, the higher the income potential, the greater the pressure there is usually, right? So for example, if you are in a SMB role where you sell small, mid-sized businesses and your on-target earnings is $150,000 and you happen to get recruited, or maybe you pursue an opportunity where on-target earnings is like $250,000, $300,000 plus, meaning if you're able to do 3 times that number, you could potentially earn $750K, $1 million plus, depending on the comp structure with the different accelerators. Great, but do you have skills to keep that job? Otherwise, if you don't show up, you have a crazy amount of pressure and you won't be able to deliver, and that can wreak havoc on you, and you go from job to job to job. And I've seen that happen in some scenarios where, companies are getting desperate to hire people, so they're kind of bringing people in, but those people don't keep those jobs. Because the reality is whatever sales sins a person has, they don't go away. It's kind of like relationships. Like if you are not very compassionate, you're not very considerate to your partner in one relationship, that doesn't really go away when you start dating other people. That pretty much stays the same if that's the type of person that you are. So that's just reality, right? So understand that. The next factor to really think about as well is money is only one factor to evaluate when you look for an opportunity. So sometimes, if you don't have a great, comp structure, you might be pursuing other opportunity, which is sure, why not? But if that's your only criteria for making a decision, that can be a really dangerous game to follow, because money does not always determine it's a great working environment, right? So think about, a good exercise is to think about all the bad bosses or companies you've ever worked for. Like think of all those things, and if there's anything that you just did not like or not happy with, that is potentially criteria you want to utilize to gauge to see if it's a good opportunity for you. So for example, right, think about, like if the company has a great comp structure, which is awesome, but do you like the direct leadership of the people you talk to, the people that you'd be reporting into? Do you like that boss, that leader, etc.? Do you trust them, the thing that make you better, right? How about the indirect leadership? So maybe in other departments or even above them, do you like them as well in your encounters with them? Have you done your research on them? Because again, we all know, poo rolls downhill. So if you have a bad chain of leadership up top and they just push down and they're always like play the numbers game and that type of BS, well, you're going to feel it and you're not going to like that either, right? So understand that. How about company culture? Really important. If it's a bad company culture where people are really unethical, that's a dangerous place. You might suddenly be in an opportunity where even your base salary triples, but if you can't go to sleep at night because everyone's being unethical, that's a pretty hard place to work. Okay, so that's hard. Let's take a look. Team culture. How about even the team you're on? Because even the team will have a subculture amongst the overall culture. What's that team culture like? How about recognition program? If that's important to you, if you like recognition program, maybe you like President's Circle, President's Club, President's Awards, etc. You like going to Mexico, Cabo, going to wherever. You like trips like that. And do they have them? It's important to understand that, right? How about product market fit? Unfortunately, I've talked to too many reps that maybe a company gets a lot of funding, so they go work on a company of a great comp structure, it seems like, but there's no PMF, no product market fit. They don't have happy customers, no case studies, and they don't even know the market really wants it, and you're forced to figure it out, right? How about a product or solution that you trust? Really important, right? If you actually get in there, you actually don't really know the product that well, you don't trust it, that's not good either. Okay. How about upward mobility? If that's important to you, does the company have it, right? How about training development? So depending on what are you comfortable with? So for some companies that are startups, they may not have structure and process in place for onboarding and ongoing development. If that's important for you to have that type of structure, being a startup might be a little bit challenging for you, right? Or vice versa, right? Maybe if you don't like to have, if you like to have a lot of structure, or if you don't like to have a lot of structure, right? And then you go work for a big corporate environment that's full of structure, you might hate that too. So these are all things that are important to understand, right? Because your personality may be better fit for different environments. You want to know that. How about the caliber of people? Like if you go and you're like the biggest fish in the pond, it might feel good for your ego in the short term, but how good does it really feel when you're just like, the biggest fish in the pond? Like that's like being like a fifth grader in elementary school, right? Seems cool till you get to middle school or high school. Then you're kind of like, what's up? Or you go to college, like, oh my gosh, I'm just a fifth grader, right? So how about company financials? Is a company healthy? Is that important to you? Like the stability, not just from funding, right? But they actually can they're running a very cash efficient business, and the leaders making smart business decisions. Is that important to you? Don't know. Okay. How about the state of the company? How about like where the company's going, the vision, the future, etc. Right? Future of the company, etc. All those things, etc., etc. Now, I said all these things. You might be like, none of these are important to me. It doesn't matter. My point is do you have criteria that's important to you, right, for your next move? And when you're looking for your next company, comp for sure probably should be one of them, but how about these other things that might be on this list, or things that you haven't thought about quite yet, and you want to have a list of those things, because now when you're looking at any of these opportunities, whether it's any of these companies you've seen right here, you're like, okay, this is some great comp structure, I really like that, they have high ratings and rep view, do they align with these other parts? Really, really important. So you want to understand what that is, and then you can kind of have your own rating of those companies as well to decide if you actually want to even go after it too. So really, really important. Now, next, let's talk about where to find roles. All right, so you can do the proactive way. So the proactive way is going out there and identifying the companies that you really want to work for, that has the comp structure and all the specific criteria that you really want in your next opportunity. And you go out there and you treat it like an outbound sales process, and you work the process, you multi-thread. Because essentially, when you think about this, if you're trying to work for a, say Carolina Handling, that's essentially you working a $1.1 million opportunity, right? It's a 1.1 million ARR, annual recurring revenue opportunity or so. You have to treat it accordingly, and so, right? Because they're not going to want to hire some crappy rep. They want to hire someone who's actually strategic, skilled, who actually knows how to deliver multi-thread and break into complex opportunity. They want to know something they can do. If they see it in your process, they'll believe you can do it for the same role as well. So the proactive ways to identify those companies and go after them proactively, just like that. Okay, which is a great way to go about this. This is regardless or not if they have a job opening or not. Then there is, I would say, a more, I don't know if the right term is reactive, but the more reactive way, if you will, is they already have current job postings that are posted. Now, I'm not going to say go and apply. I'm not saying that. But it means they already have an open requisition, meaning they have a clear need. So it's kind of like an inbound lead that comes in. When you have an inbound lead comes in, that person is saying, hey, I have a need, I have some sort of pain or problem, or I'm growing, and I want to spend some money, I just don't know who quite yet. That's what basically, like when they put a job posting up there, they're saying, hey, we are expanding and growing, we need to hire someone. Or they might be, we have an open territory, we're bleeding revenue, we have a problem that has to be solved by somebody. That's what that means, right? And you can find those roles, and instead of just applying, you can also outbound them as well and really stand out. And let me kind of show you some very simple ways to kind of find some opportunities really quick. Okay, so I'm logged into LinkedIn Jobs right here. Now, some of you watching this might be like, oh, but there's been so many layoffs. There's been so many reduction forces. People are getting fired, putting pips nonstop. Yeah, depending on when you watch this, yeah, that's absolutely all 100% true. But here's the thing. I'll tell you right now, despite all that, there are still many companies that are still hiring. There are still many people who are quitting on their own accord and looking for other opportunities still. And let me show you exactly what I mean. So let's say, for example, if we want to look up, let's just say, I'm going to start general first. Let's say account executive, okay? If you take a look at account executive, and if you take a look at this, I'm just going to do date posted in the past 24 hours. Look, in the past 24 hours, over 9,000 job postings have been posted, meaning over 9,000 roles were saying, I don't say company, because some of them are probably multiple companies, they all like together. Over like 9,000 postings were put up there saying we need to hire 9,000 reps. That's what they're saying, right? So obviously this is a pretty wide range. Let's take a look. Let's just say, for example, I want to look up, say, remote only. Okay, hold on, remote only. Yep, boom, remote only. Look, even just in that, in the past 24 hours, 1,700 postings for an account executive, right? So you can kind of see like there are opportunities out there, right? Or let's say, for example, if I just say enterprise account executive, and by the way, this is only United States, right? Enterprise account executive, just in the past 24 hours, 586 opportunities are showing up right here. Right, so you can kind of see how powerful like this is. Like people are actually companies are posting jobs and opportunities they want to actually hire for in the past 24 hours. If I just go the past week, look, over 2,000 plus, almost 3,000. And by the way, I only chose remote, so like let's just say if you're cool with like hybrid, now you have 4,000 results. So you can see that the opportunities are out there. It's just most people just read the news, they see some of these posts of people getting laid off, and they're like, oh, there's no jobs out there. Well, that's not true at all. Layoffs are happening for sure. There's definitely reduction in force. Definitely people being put on performance plans for sure. But there's also a lot of companies that are absolutely growing and thriving. So for example, like I just hired 2 new people that joined my team this week because we're scaling and growing still, right? So again, there are companies out there that are still growing and thriving, right? And they're out there. You just have to look for them. So you can kind of take a look here. So let's say, for example, you found this role. This is actually, hold on, let's take a look at a strategic key accounts. Let's take a look at key accounts real quick. Put key accounts. Take a look. Boom. And you can see again, like obviously some of them are lower end roles, etc. But if you just take your time to kind of look through there and you get selective, you can kind of take a look. I'm just taking a look at remote only, and let's just say past 24 hours. Like, look, 792 roles in just key accounts. Again, not all of them are going to be exact perfect, but you'll see the roles are there if you actually look for the roles, and that's why I like to share just even different industries as well, because the truth is no industry is completely recession proof. That's just a good organization that aligns with what you're looking for, whether that's in tech sales or any other ones I mentioned or other ones I did not even mention. It can be a very lucrative opportunity for you, right? Because reality is like when you find what you're looking for, if you identify your criteria and you're really clear on what you want to get and you have the right skills, habits, execution, you can make a ton of money in so many different opportunities. And the truth is, some people don't need to make $1.1 million or $1.2 million. You might be totally cool with making $250K, $300K, $150K, $100K, whatever, because your cost of living is relatively low. And frankly, you don't care about that. And that's totally fine too, because ultimately what's most important is uncovering what's most important for you. What do you really want out of your next role or out of your career? And we uncover what that's going to be, and you really look ahead, say 3, 5, 10 years down the road, and you identify what those things are. Then you can start taking the steps towards that. And that's really, really important. So for example, when I was in my corporate career, and I did for over 14 years, when I started making a lot of money and I was like, that's really cool, making a lot of money is really cool, I realized money wasn't everything. And I realized for me personally, I actually got a lot of fulfillment out of leading teams and helping people, helping coach people, and just do that. And I absolutely love doing that. And that's why even in my career, I was offered a lot of money to kind of stay in the role and keep selling, but I wanted to take these leadership roles because I just loved leading people, right? And also I want equity to that as well. But you kind of get my point. So when you are really clear on your end destination, 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, then you can make better decisions today to help get you there, whether it's right opportunity, improving your skills, improving your habits, getting the right knowledge in your brain so you can become that person so you can achieve those things that you want in life. So I hope you enjoyed this training so far. A couple other things as well that's going to help you. So if you are actively looking for a role, I'm also going to link a training right below here. This is how to get a sales job without any experience, less than 90 days. This is actually a really robust 45-minute training. So if you're in the job market, I'm going to link this in the video as well. But you definitely want to check this video out because it's completely free, by the way. And we've had students in our program to people random people who've literally watched the video, done exactly what's happened while I teach in this video, and they've gotten job offers. On the long end, 90 days. On the fastest end, we've had people get offers within 1 week, within 5 business days, getting literally offers by just literally doing exactly this without sending out hundreds of applications. So definitely check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure, of course, to hit like, subscribe if you really enjoyed this. Tells the algorithm people actually enjoy this video. And if you haven't grabbed a copy of my Wall Street Journal best-selling book, 6-Figure Sales Secrets, make sure to grab a copy in the link below. Check it out, enjoy, and see you in the next video.